Welcome to the Soul-Led Revolution with me, your host, Yolandi Bosov. And today I'm super excited to introduce you to Nicola Humber. So Nicola is the author of 3 transformational books: Heal Your Inner Good Girl, Unbound, and Unbound Writing. She's also the founder of the Unbound Press, a soul-led publishing imprint for unbound women. So just a quick thing before I introduce her further. Nicola is also my publisher, so for my last book, and this is why I've got her on here today, is to speak about like unbound writing and unbound living and all that good stuff. Nicola, welcome so much.
Oh, Yolandi, thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited for our conversation.
Oh, that's awesome. So tell us a little bit about you, like your story, how you got into this, because it's really fascinating, just like how you started the Unbound Press and your books and all of that. Give us a bit of background.
Yeah, because it was never part of the plan to start a publishing company, to be honest. And I guess, you know, when we're soul-led, that's what happens. I mean, my background is in business and finance. Like, I worked in finance. I still can't quite believe it now. But up until my late 30s, I left my job as a financial planner back in 2000 and 2008, so to retrain as a coach and hypnotherapist. And you know, I'd always followed what I would call the good girl path, so doing what I thought was expected of me, you know, getting a good education, going to university. I did a sensible degree in business studies because I was told that that would be kind of most useful. Then went into working, like, first in insurance and then in finance. So, you know, it's very corporate environments. And I think I always knew, or a lot of the time I could feel that there was something else that I was meant to be doing, that, you know, I wanted to do. And what I would now call my unbound self was like calling to me, just going, Nicola, you can't carry on doing this. And I would be sitting in the office, like going to the office every day and thinking, you know, having times when I felt quite depressed. It's like, I just can't do this anymore. So I was in that place of like questioning, what should I do with my life? What do I need to do, for a long time before I made the decision to leave and retrain as a hypnotherapist primarily, and my coaching training was part of that. And I thought that was it. I'll just set up a hypnotherapy practice, you know, it's all good.
All be fine.
That's what I'm going to do with the rest of my life, and I'm happy with that. But, you know, as we know, things don't work like that. And, you know, that was very much the beginning of the journey, and kind of unbinding myself from all of the kind of good girl conditioning and starting to walk this more unbound path, basically, which is like being my fullest, freest self and holding space for other, primarily women, to do the same. And that's what led to the books, and then through the books into the creation of the Unbound Press.
So that whole, I mean, because working with you guys when I did my book and stuff was such an empowering like experience, because you know what I know about the publishing industry and about how people's words are like, you know, changed, and how the expression is like really like throttled down, and like you know, it's just like kind of like, this is the mold and you have to go and like conform to this mold. And working with you guys was like such a freeing experience, because it was like all of the stuff that just flew out of me actually ended up on the page. Like there was literally like nothing was changed. So that whole like conscious choice to write Unbound, to be unbound, I mean, that is the ethos of you, of your business. Like, how hard was it to get into that? Like, how hard was it to actually unbind and step out of the narrative of like, this is how things should be, and create something that's so vastly fucking different from anything you've seen in the publishing world?
I think actually, as you're speaking, what I'm realizing is, like, I don't know much about the publishing world. So else.
Oh,
Because I didn't have too much to unbind from. Because my first book, like Heal You're in a Good Girl, I totally self-published that, did it all
yeah,
myself, you know, and I kind of read some books and, you know, looked at some like videos on like how to write a book or whatever, but I just kind of let it come through.
yeah,
And it was through writing the second book, Unbound. I published that with a company that have a similar model to the Unbound Press.
yeah,
And it was actually, so it's a hybrid model. So,
yes,
you know, it's not quite self-publishing, not quite traditional. We sit in the middle. And it was Sean Patrick, who runs that company, who's actually, you know, was the first person to say to me, I can imagine you doing this with other women, and, you know, you'd have a publishing imprint and it would be called something like the Unbound Press. And I just knew that that's what I was meant to do.
yeah.
But I didn't know anything about traditional publishing or how it's normally done. And when we started the Unbound Press, like I worked very closely with Sean and the team at that guy's house, who's, you know, who I published Unbound with. So I had that support, but really, you know, I was finding my own way with it. And, you know, the people who have been attracted to the Unbound Press, both the authors and the team, like they're attracted because they want to work in this unbound way. And so
Yes.
it just feels like, of course, we're just gonna, you know, we're gonna be championing and holding space for our authors,
Yes.
like writing to be that true expression of what they want to share. And yes, of course, it goes through like an editing process. Like we want to make sure that the book is as you know, good as it can be. But like that's like for me and for everyone, I think at the Unbound Press, that's the most important thing. So I didn't have a lot to unbind from, which is like, I've just realized that's quite a gift.
This is so cool, right? Because now this brings me, like my brain's now going, okay, so here's someone who literally created something like, you know, a publishing house, and like you went through the process of going, I'm gonna do it my way, and the way that feels good and the way that feels solid. And I just like, for me, this is unbound creation, right? Like where we don't constrict ourselves in the way that we believe we are meant to do stuff. So if you had to go and read up about how to do a publishing house, you would have gone, oh, step one, step two, but you didn't. You kind of allowed yourself just to be led by what feels good, your heart, like how people are going to interact, all of that, right? That's fucking totally unbound. Like that is so cool, right?
Well, I just love this. Conversations are helping me to kind of like really anchor into that, because, you know, I always say, like, obviously the Unbound Press is a publishing company, but I kind of don't think of it as, like, I talk about it as a publishing company because that people understand that.
Yes.
But really it's not. And I was speaking to someone the other day. She said the Unbound Press is like a front, you know, when like it's a business, the kind of criminals are like money laundering through. It's a bit like the Unbound Press is like a spiritual version of that. And basically, you know, what I'm interested in is the creation process of the books, like the writing process, and like the journey each of the authors go on as they write their books. Like that just really lights me up. But also the fact that each of these books, like they're bringing through new ways, and they are going out into the world to activate all sorts of transformation. So it's this kind of huge process, like organization, like that's devoted to spiritual transformation, basically.
Yes.
But it's just got the title of publishing company on it.
I'm gonna put it in inverted commas, publishing company. But I mean, like obviously, like, you know, the back end stuff of like getting it loaded up and doing all of that like has to happen. But
it
the
does.
the process of birthing this thing is just, yeah. And I mean, for me, like having written with you, because I don't feel like I wrote my book alone. Like I wrote it with Unbound Press, right? Like that's how it felt. So, and it was never a lone process. And it's like that like whole thing of like going from putting your pen to the paper the first time and like actually holding the baby in your hand. I mean, like that whole thing is like it's a fucking spiritual like revolution in yourself. Like just put yourself out there going through the process of writing, and you guys just like make it like you're like doulas, right? Like you're literally helping us to birth stuff. So it's so beautiful. It's like, shit, this is really profound.
Yeah, well, this is why it's really important, and it's happened quite naturally, that everybody in the team at the Unbound Press, like they're all amazing at what they do, whether it's editing, design, like marketing, whatever it is, but they are all amazing space holders as well, because that's what we do. Like we're here to hold space. And like, even if we're not in, like when you were writing your book, Yolandi, you know, you were off doing your thing and writing it, but like you said, I think you could feel that we were holding space for you,
Oh
like
yes.
each of our authors,
Yes.
and whether we're having direct contact with them at a particular time or whether they're off writing it, whatever
Yes.
stage they're at. It's really important to me that whoever has contact with our authors, like all of the team, that they
Yeah.
can hold space, because like so much can come up through the process. And
It's insane.
it is insane, and it amazes me, and it feels like even like that kind of, I don't know, it almost feels like that's kind of amplified at the moment as well. Like the more, like the crazier things get in the outside world, like the more can come up during our writing and publishing processes as well.
Yes. Yes. And I think like another thing that I'm really like just enjoying about like your work and what you give to people, like those containers that you create, like even if people aren't like publishing with you necessarily or whatever, like again it's that space holding thing again, you know, it's like the containers that you provide. So give us a little bit of insight into like what happens in your containers, like when people come to you and they come to your mastermind, or like some of the, you know, you run a lot of challenges where you hold space for people. Like give us a bit of insight into that.
Yeah, well, it's really important for me that, like, even if people aren't working with us at the Unbound Press kind of yet, maybe they will, you know, who knows. I've got no attachment to whether
Yeah.
people publish their book, but I'm a real like champion of like people sharing their truth and writing books if they're feeling the call. So I want to support people from as early on in the process as possible. So and I love doing it. So, you know, I do host a couple of times a year. I host some kind of like Unbound writing challenge where we have a 5-day journey. And people come back to that kind of year after year, like even people who have published their books with us, just to kind of get a little kind of kickstart or like reconnect with their book writing process. And then we also have the Unbound Writing Mastermind, which is a longer term container. People can join for either 3 months or 9 months. And I mean, really those spaces, whether it's the challenge tends to be, because it's more condensed, it's over 5 days. So there's kind of a lot going on, and, you know, I'm doing Facebook Lives, and whereas in something like the Mastermind, we have a number of group calls every month, and some of those are writing sessions where I'm like holding space for people to actually have dedicated writing time, which sounds really simple, but I mean, you know, the power of holding space, Yolandi, you know, like having that space held for us as we're writing or creating anything is so powerful. And also having the like the energy of the group as well. And then other calls are like coaching, mentoring calls. And again, like people come with questions and challenges that they might be experiencing. And like, I'll definitely offer what I have to kind of share around it. Very often in those spaces, like people end up answering their own question. You know, They'll just like, you know, just the act of asking it sometimes,
Yes.
like the answer drops in, or somebody else in the group will have something really powerful to offer. So that's what I love about community,
Yeah.
basically. You know, there's always somebody who has something to
Yeah.
offer. And we also have sharing circles, which I love,
Yes.
where people get to share some of their writing and speak their words into the circle.
Oh.
And that is incredibly like powerful. Like every single time we have one of those sessions, my mind is literally blown. I think we experience our words different. Well, obviously we experience our words differently from when we're writing them to actually speaking them. Like,
Huge.
yeah, like sometimes you can write something and it's like, no, that's okay, I'm not sure. And then you speak, you know, and I see this in the group, and then a woman speaks her words and like everyone's in tears and like, you know, and she's like so moved by her own words, and it's like, wow, that feels so different. So
And you just reminded me the very first thing that I ever wrote. Like this was way before I met you. And I was in a retreat, and this woman came, and she was like just teaching us like how to write. And I remember writing this thing down, and I remember reading it, and I remember everyone bawling their eyes out. And I remember going, fuck, I did that.
yeah,
Like my words actually hit someone in the heart. And you don't always know that when you're writing something. And so many of us love writing, and
yeah,
like we don't see the effect of our words on people when they're experiencing it, right?
exactly. And that's the thing with a book. Like quite often our book, you know, they're off, we don't know who's buying our book or what impact unless they reach out to us and
Yes.
let us know. So having that direct experience of reading your words and like not just seeing the impact but really feeling the
Yes.
impact of that
Yeah.
is huge.
Oh,
And I feel like when people are able to do that, like before their book is completed and goes out into the world, it kind of creates this sense of connection and knowing within them that, yeah, like I know my words are powerful because look, you know, look what
yeah.
happened.
Yes. Yes. It's so beautiful. Oh man. So like becoming your freest unbound self. Okay. So
Mhm.
talk to me about that. Like what inspired that? Because I mean you wrote the book Unbound, Unbound writing, all of that. Like this is your thing, right?
Yeah.
You're like the poster girl for Unbound in so many ways.
Mm. I mean, I first connected with that word or like the energy of Unbound through the word because I was exploring my core desired feelings. So Danielle Laporte is an amazing author, and she wrote a book called Core Desired. I think it was called Core Desired Feelings, where you
Okay.
just, you know, rather than having goals where it's like, I want to have a 6-figure business and a house by the sea. It's like, well, no, how do I want to feel? So I was working through that process. And one of my feelings that I desired was freedom.
Yeah.
But that word, it wasn't quite doing it for me. It's like, it just felt a bit like, you know, well, yeah, okay, everybody wants freedom, but what does that mean? So I was looking through like the dictionary and the thesaurus to look at like similar words, and one of the words that I found was unbound. And as soon as I saw that word, like I could feel it in every cell in my body. It was like, yes, that's what I want, to feel unbound. Because in that word there was a kind of suggestion, and knowing that something had previously felt bound and restricted, and there's this sense of like just opening up and like freeing yourself from that old constriction, which for me was the kind of good girl. So that, like the energy of the word just felt really potent to me. So I started working with it like personally. It's like, well, what does it mean to me to be unbound? And then it came into it came into the first book, Heal You're in a Good Girl, like the idea of the unbound self, and then that led to Unbound afterwards, the second book.
Oh, I love that. And it just feels so powerful, doesn't it? It's just like I just have this image of like everything just dropping and like just going back.
Yeah, completely. Like, completely just throwing off all of that
Yes.
stuff that I'd, believed to be true, and how I'd been making choices and living my life,
Yes.
for a long time.
But then it just brings me back to this, like, I mean, you found that you created these books and then you basically stepped into something that was completely unbound from the start. So it's beautiful to see how you went through that whole reclamation process, that process of finding your unbound and then actually creating a business that is unbound as well, like literally unbound. Like, it's just like so amazing, like how one word can create a trajectory for your business, your life, everything.
I know. Well, I never would have, it amazes me when I look back. Like, I could never have known and where it would lead me. And if someone had told me, oh, in 2022, you'll be running a publishing company, and, you would have published like 30 books and with more authors coming all the time, I'd be like, what? No way. That's not me. And even the year before we started the Unbound Press, when I was writing my second book, Unbound, my mentor at the time, who's like amazing, she's really intuitive, and she said, I keep getting visions of you like running writing workshops and helping people to write books. And I was like, no, that's not me.
And look at you now.
Exactly. Yeah. So the timing has to be right as well.
Yes.
I think,
Yes.
we have to be ready to kind of,
Yes.
well, I don't think we ever feel completely ready, but we kind of,
we know this. And that is the thing. So like that bravery or the courage required to, firstly, I mean, like making the leap out of corporate into coaching, and then making the leap out of coaching into like running this business and stuff. What was the thing? Like, where did the courage, like, what was it? Like, what do you think? Is there something you can remember, or was it just like, did it just happen? Like, what made you jump?
I mean, I think with the step out of corporate, I was at a point where I was so uncomfortable in that environment. I was just like looking for the answer. And as soon as I mean, it was an intuitive hit. I didn't recognize it at that time. Like to train in hypnotherapy, I saw a demonstration by a hypnotherapist at a health spa, and I was like, oh yeah, I think this is what I'm meant to do. So, I mean, and I trusted that, and I was so uncomfortable that, it felt, I don't think it felt easy, but, I'd been looking for a way out. So that was the way out. And I took
Yes.
that step. And then it's always the first step, isn't it? That just like the other ones appear and you just keep taking the steps. So like very often they don't feel like massive steps. There are times, and like certainly starting the Unbound Press, that did feel like a big step, and I would wake up in the middle of the night and just go, but I don't know what I'm doing. Like, I don't know how to do this. And like, pretty soon we had the first like few authors come to us and sign with us, and I was like, oh my God, like how are we going to do this? But it felt big, but also, I was like, well, we'll try it out and see how it goes. So it's always from that place of like experimentation. And if it didn't work, like it could have been the case where I started this thing, the Unbound Press, and it kind of fizzled out, and then there would have been something else. Like it's all perfect. Like we're going to get to where we're meant to be eventually. So I think I'd cultivated this sense of trust like in the years that I had been running my own business, that
Yes.
like everything leads to the next thing.
Yes.
So it's only really looking back that I can say, oh my goodness, that was like such a seminal moment, like starting the Unbound Press. It might have just been a damp squib. Like we've all had things like that where we thought, oh God, this is the thing. And then it hasn't been. So yeah, I think I was just like taking that next step basically.
And I think that's the thing, isn't it? It's just like it's always like our brains need to know that. I liked what you said, where you were like, it felt like, okay, I'm just going to try this. I just feel like I need to do this. And then you just did it. And if it doesn't work, I'll just like go back, I'll just try something else.
Yeah.
But it's always that moment of like going, I'm going to do this. I'm going to try this. I'm going to go. And I think that for me is basically, that's what as humanity, like, and for us who's going through change and stuff, it's just like, just take the next step. Just do the next thing, just go to the next place. That's all it is, right? It's just always a step.
Exactly. Like you don't have to kind of create like some big thing straight away. You just take the step. And the first step was literally like going live on Facebook with Sean from That Guy's House and saying, I'm launching this publishing company called the Unbound Press. And just like, and when I first started the mastermind, I'd never, I wasn't a book coach. I'd never held space for people to write before, but I just said that. I said, look, I'm starting this mastermind. I've written books myself. I know I can hold like powerful space. And do you want to come on a 6-month journey and, write a book within this space? And people stepped into that, but it was from a place, it wasn't like, well, I know exactly what I'm doing and I know exactly it was just like, shall we try this out together? Which is pretty much how we operate at the Unbound Press. Like if we want to do something new, it's like, we've just released our first audio book, and the amazing Joe Gifford kind of helped with that, like held space for it. And we were just like, said to the authors, like, if somebody wants to be the first one to do this, come and try it out with us. And we found our way through. So that's the way we operate.
But this is life, isn't it? And this is the beauty of this. Like, you create something beautiful out of just like going, let's try it, let's see. And it's just like not being scared of going, oh my God, the whole world's going to crash if this thing doesn't work. Shit, we've all done stuff that didn't work, right? But you didn't die, so you're good. Let's go on.
Exactly. I mean, that's the piece that can definitely freak my good girl out. And I have moments, or many moments, where it's like, oh, I know, but I should know exactly how this is going to happen. Or, sometimes we've got different kinds of books that we're working with, and my inner good girl is like, yeah, but you need to know exactly how this process is going to unfold. And it's like, well, I can't, so you just have to in the back seat and trust that it's going to be okay. And whatever happens, we'll figure it out. It's fine.
Oh, I love it. And I think that's the thing, right? It's just like, for me, it's just like, it's such a lovely message as well, even just for me personally. It's just like keep doing it, like just one step at a time, and we go, and it's a magical journey. And then you end up freaking creating an awesome publishing house and publishing a shit ton of books. So that's really cool.
How did that happen?
So yeah, I love it. Okay, cool. So we're kind of almost running out of time. Anything you want to share with people, like just some like last words of wisdom from your side?
I think it's like, the message for me is always around trust, and it is, trusting those nudges or pushes that we get like some of the time, about like the next step. And this applies whether it is in business or like when you're writing your book, whatever it is. Like, we don't need to know the whole path, and like we can try and make it up like plan it out. But just allowing yourself to take that first step and trusting that the next ones will appear, not waiting until like you know what the whole journey is going to look like. And that definitely applies to the book writing journey as well. Just letting yourself, if you're feeling the call to write a book, just begin, and like your book will guide you through the process.
Yeah, definitely. I love that, because you never know what it's going to turn out to be, believe me. Then they got the t-shirt.
And if you knew, you might not start, so just start.
Do it, it'll change your life.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay, so if people want to like get hold of you, like work with you, check out some of the masterminds, even look at like your publishing house, like where do they find you?
Yeah, the best place to go is my website, so nicolahumber.com. And actually on there, there's an everything page.
I like it. Everything is here.
It's everything. Like, so, and I actually, I got that idea from someone called Elizabeth Goddard. She's amazing. And she just has everything that she offers, like on her everything page. So basically, like everything is there, from like my free things to like the mastermind, and you can click through and find out more about publishing with the Unbound Press as well. So yeah, nicolahumber.com.
And go to everything and check it out.
Click
That's
on
such
everything.
a cool idea. That's beautiful. Oh, thank you so much for being here today. And and thank you also for publishing my book. I really appreciate you.
Oh, Yolandi, like such a joy to work with you, and to release your magical book into the world. So grateful for you as well.
Thank you so much for sharing all your wisdom with us today. I really appreciate it. Guys, I hope you enjoyed the show. And we'll see you in a couple of weeks. And thanks again, Nicola.
Oh, thanks, Yolandi.
Cool. Keep well. Bye.